Well, this is the last topic. This is the topic where everything we have done to now comes together. We've worked on prospecting, we've come up with buyers, we've come up with sellers, and now it's time for them to meet. This is the time when everything you've done, where the rubber meets the road, and I think it's the most fun transaction in real estate, the offer presentation. I just think it's a joyful time. And what we'll cover in this topic are win-win negotiating strategies. We'll talk about some techniques for offer presentation, and we'll talk about how to handle the low offer, the counter offer, and a multiple offer. But I really do believe this is a fun time in real estate. It's also a time, I want to make this caution to those of you listening. Talk to your managers, talk to your trainers, because the local customs on offer presentations vary so much across the world. Some cases the selling agent presents, some the listing and the selling agent. So please, in your classes, discuss the proper techniques. But here what I'm going to demonstrate are the skills of the presentation. To start off, let's talk about some of the myths of negotiating. Doesn't everybody expect to negotiate? What do you think? I don't know. I mean, how many times have you gone through a grocery checkout, they rang up your order and they said, okay, your total is $127.15. I'll give you 98 bucks for it. But all of a sudden in real estate, somehow we think, that we should come in low. I don't know where this came from, but we think we should. And there's this belief over that. There are some cultures in the United States and Canada, wherever countries you're in, you're dealing with multinational cultures moving in. And some cultures actually come out of a background where negotiating really is what they do. And people have asked me, well, what if in my culture, in my market, negotiating isn't the norm? And I think the safest answer is say, you know what, should I ever come to buy real estate in your country or in your area, I would have to respect your local traditions of negotiating. But I would ask that in our culture that you respect ours, because the people we deal with really don't like negotiating. Now, depending on what countries you're in, I know in the United States, the National Automotive Dealers Association has discovered that 85% of Americans, and perhaps North Americans, don't like negotiating. They really don't. Everybody talks a big game. When it really gets down to it, guess what's working in the car industry? The no-dicker-sticker price, fixed pricing. And they're finding that people they're sick and tired of playing the game because they always feel that no matter what happens, they got burned in the end. So I don't really like the attitude of price it high and then come in low. Because here's the situation you have. I really believe that all real estate ends up selling for market value. What do you think? It's kind of like saying all rooms are room temperature, because that's what it's going to sell for. And the problem is we have real estate agents who aren't negotiators. They're messengers. They turn to the seller and say, well, how much you want to ask? Okay. And the first price comes out of the seller's mouth. Well, okay. We turn to the buyer. How much do you want to offer? Okay. They don't need realtors. They need the mail. Let's just mail them an offer. If everything the seller and the buyer says, we just go, okay, we're nothing. We're messengers. On the other hand, when a seller, because if you overprice a listing way up here and you get buyers who always want to come in low, you have this huge gap between your buyers and sellers. What's that like? Overpriced listings, working with undermotivated buyers. Guess what you get to do for the next 90 days of your life? You got to go back to your seller and say, you guys, we need you to come down just a little bit, okay? And they go, no, I said, just a little bit, you're way up too high. And they said, no, finally you have to get tough. And you start pulling these people down, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. What about your buyers? Oh, I forgot about them. And you take them out, you show them 5 homes, 10 homes, 50. Can we make an offer? Low. They make another low offer. Can we get a good deal on? They lose it. And then you start working your sellers down and finally get them about here and the listing expires. You finally get the buyers up here and you work with these people month after month and they finally say, well, we think we're going to rent. Oh. That's what this business is like if you're going to be wimps and just go, okay. And if you take the first offer out of a buyer, how much do you want? We got to come in low. Well, okay. Well, here's what he offered. You wanted to do. Counter. Okay. I think we need to provide resistance. What do you think? I don't care. If you're a buyer's agent, the buyer's coming in low, I'm going to get the buyers up there. If I'm a seller's agent, they want overpriced, I'm going to pull them down. Because I know, because I'm a professional, that it ends up here and move them towards an objective standard. That's what we get paid to do. Otherwise, this business will be miserable for you. It'll be a battle of egos between your buyer and seller. That's not the way you want to do it. And then some people say, well, couldn't we just split the difference? Oh, that's original. Splitting the difference only works if both parties are an equal distance from a fair outcome. You know, if somebody's asking $200,000 and a buyer offers $100,000, should they split the difference? No, because the buyer set the lower limit. So no, that's wrong. By the way, splitting the difference doesn't work on closing dates, does it? If one person wants June 1, one wants July 1, a June 15th doesn't make any party happy. So splitting the difference is not a real cool concept. Win-win says that you have people on two different sides of an issue. Person A and person B on opposite sides of a wall. Person B says it's concave. Person A says, no, it's convex. They're both right, aren't they, from their viewpoint? As a real estate agent looking down on the wall, we go, you know what, you're both right. But Mr. A, I'd like you to see it from B's viewpoint. Mr. B, I'd like you to see it from A's viewpoint. And they both go, oh yeah, and now you can negotiate. You know, same thing, labor unions, management, those kinds of battles. They see things from their own perspective, and they're both correct from their perspective. And what good negotiators do is say, well, here's how they see it. Here's how they see it. And that's your mission as a negotiator. So, next thing you need to do is be hard on the problem, soft on the people. Don't get the seller and buyers mad at each other. Well, that jerk, if he's going to sell it to me, I'm not going to sell it to him for anything. Oh, they want to come in and steal my house, do they? Oh, well, I wouldn't let them buy it if they paid me 10 over. And now the people hate each other. What you need to do is say, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the buyers are wonderful people. Gosh, they're nice people. You'd love them. In fact, when you meet them, you're going to see what nice people they are. But the problem is, they've come from a market, they've seen this, they've done that, here's a situation, the market values, so you blame some third party. And when we go back to the seller versus the buyer, rather than the seller and the buyer hating each other, going, oh, that stupid seller just tries to overprice. Oh, yeah, well, these buyers want to come in and steal my house. Instead, you have them both get mad at what? An objective standard. Same with closing dates. Saying, well, he just wants to rush me into it. Oh, no, he wants to take a long time. No. The objective standard is most transactions in our community do close at this part based on custom, tradition, and mortgage financing. Oh, so that's the problem, yes. So instead of having the parties mad at each other, have the objective standard. And finally, focus on interest, not position. So when somebody says, nope, we're not going to give them anything longer than 45 days, what would you say to that, based on what you've learned through this series? Why? Good for, oh, I love it when an audience learns it. When they say what, you say why. We're not going to close later than, July 15th. Why is that? And the answer to that could be in so many things. It could be a financial issue. It could be an emotional issue. It could be a vacation. Who knows what it is? But when they say what, you follow up with why. Before you present an offer, you need to know when and where you're going to present, typically done in the seller's home. Number two, you would update your competitive market analysis, regardless of whose listing it is. Would you agree with that? Because if you have a listing agent that has overpriced, you need to be able to say, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's what the buyers saw before they saw your home. You may not have known this. Problem is you run the risk of making the listing agent look poor, but I guess I don't care. If they didn't do their job, I'll do it for them. Right? I mean, that's the problem with this business. They haven't seen these videos, so they're not as good as you. Check the showing record on the property. If it's your listing, you want to make sure you have copies of documents for everything, and you want to have a net equity statement, because what's the first question the owner says after they see the offer? How much is going to net me? And then you should have two net sheets, the one you did when you listed it and the one you do when you sell it, to compare the two. And keep in mind what are the reasons for acceptance and what are some of the problems you'll encounter, so when you walk in, you're ready to present. Now, the first thing you would do is to prepare and present the buyers. Before a seller wants to take their home off the market, they want to know if these are going to be good buyers. So you would set the stage by saying, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer are, and you talk about these people and their financial qualifications. Where should you sit? If it's your listing, I think you should sit with your sellers, be on their side. Remember, an offer isn't a contract till it's signed and delivered, and you need to tell that to your sellers. Now it's time to present the agreement, and that's the fun part. What happens? That magic moment where the sellers look to the contract and respond to the price. What you hope is they'll look at it and go, isn't that nice? So let's watch the offer presentation, and you're going to see two as we go through this video. You're going to see what happened with Juan and Carmen as they bought the home I sold them, and you're going to see the listing of Walt and Margie and an offer coming in from another real estate agent there. So let's take a look.
Wow, so somebody wants to buy the house?
Well, let's hope so. We'll see how badly they want to once they present the agreement. But yes, obviously
Great.
somebody has an interest in your home. And as I mentioned, over half the sales come through our relationships with other real estate companies. And this agreement is coming in with a woman named Judy Pache with JP Realty. And she showed it this morning.
So make it off this afternoon.
Pardon?
That's pretty fast, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean for them to make
Well,
an offer?
yeah, if it's not this morning, then that's
Yeah,
good.
typically if a buyer goes in, well, you see a home, you like it, and they don't want to waste any time.
Excellent.
So they've written an agreement on your home. Now, I don't know anything about the agreement. We pretty much keep that to ourselves until we present. But I just want to, before Judy gets here, just so you know, what I'll do is we're searching for a win-win negotiation here between you and the buyer. So you need to feel comfortable with the agreement. And if you're not comfortable, let me know. And your options are, just to remind you, you may accept this agreement, and if you do, a sold sign goes up. If you don't like it, you can reject it, send her back, say start over. Typically, if you don't like it, what we try to do is a counteroffer. If there's something about the agreement you don't like that you need to change, then you can cross it out, initial it, and we send it back. But keep in mind, if we make any change on the agreement, if we touch that agreement, it's basically null and void. We have voided the contract, and the buyers are no longer committed, so the ball goes back into their court. So whatever we do here tonight, we need to be very careful about it. This is also a time where the decision really will be yours. My role here is to not make a decision for you. I try to do the best I can to stay out of that and give you the information and let you make that choice. I'll give you as much information as I can, but ultimately the choice will be yours.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm going to go let her in. So you guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So first thing, set the stage, get them ready to negotiate. If you have any questions, comments to make to the owners, do that. The next step is, this is the magic moment, and the first case here will be a co-op offer from the lady named Judy, and she will present her agreement to my sellers. Walt and Margie, this is
I'm
Judy Pache.
Judy, pleasure.
Walt Weaver.
How do you do, Judy?
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. You have a lovely home.
Thank you.
Thank you for making it available for me this morning.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad you had a chance to come by and see it too.
It's so tough to get schedules together that I'm fortunate that you were able to see us so quickly today too. So.
Okay. Well, Judy, thanks for showing the property and coming up with an agreement. I briefed them on the plans for the evening, and I guess I'd like to start. I'm sure they'd be interested in hearing a little bit about your buyer, so I'm going to let you go ahead and tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, I'd love to do that. Their names are Mark and Risa Plick, and they've just been transferred into our area, and they only have 1 week to find a house. So we're burning rubber morning, noon, and night. And I got them through a loan officer yesterday, so I have a pre-approval here for you. He has a very excellent position starting in a couple of months, and he is totally pre-approved. Everything, total credit. He's been through the underwriter, everything. Their house has been sold and closed, so we're not looking at any contingencies at all on this offer.
Oh, good.
And they have a couple of small children, so they're very anxious to get moved into the property and get their children started into schools, daycares, and all the rest of it. Plus, as I say, he has a new job that he's starting with. So if you're comfortable with just hitting the high points, would that be a good way to present this?
Yeah, let's start there, and let's start at the big picture and work down.
Okay,
So-
okay. As you can see at the top of the page, the name of the people are Mark and Risa Plick. They have a $5,000 earnest money check prepared for you today. The things that they're asking for basically are just the things that you had in the listing contract: the stove, refrigerator, washer, and dryer currently in the premises. They're offering you $387,000 today, $5,000 earnest money, and $72,400 at the closing, which basically represents a 20% down offer. They would like possession of the property September 25th, if that would work for you. This again is a conventional offer. It is not subject to any contingencies other than they are going to have an inspection done of your property, and I'm sure David's talked to you about that. Okay. The property can remain on the market during that inspection time if you choose to, and we get an inspector in here within 5 business days, and then if we have any objections, we have to present those within 2 days in writing. And there is a supplement to this purchase agreement spelling that out.
Well, based on what Judy's brought in, I think she's brought in a very fair agreement. Clearly, it's what we would call a clean agreement, conventional financing. She's not asking for anything in here that would be unusual, and it's the kind of agreement we look for. One where it's qualified purchasers and the letter supporting that. And the offer at $387, obviously, you might want to see what the difference would be on the net sheet. Okay, the single offer that was written well is probably the easiest in the world to present. Is there a tendency for an owner sometimes to counter little things? Maybe. And what do you recommend on very small changes? You've got to be careful. If it's an important small change, then it's not a small change. But you need to tell them, is the risk of losing this buyer commensurate with what you gain from that? But the flip side of it is, if it's a small change, how would you present it back to the buyer? If you're taking what is now a counteroffer back to the buyer, if it's a small change, how do you present it?
Present everything they accepted first.
Sell benefits first.
Well, you'd sell everything they accepted first, and if it's really a minor change, in your opinion, I might just go back and say, congratulations, you guys, congratulations, you got yourself a house. They made one little change, but I knew it was something that I didn't think would be that deal, so here it is. Now, that's maybe a little extreme, but that's one way of doing that if it's a small change. If it's not a small change, it is a counter. That's what we're going to cover next. In the next scene, what we're going to see are multiple offers. Both Judy and I present offers together. One is my offer, one is hers, and the difference is, as you'll see, is that price is not as much the issue as is the closing date. Well, Margie and Walter, this is one of those dream presentations that occurs in the residential real estate market, and that's called the multiple offer presentation. And that's where we have more than one person interested in your home. And Judy, she showed it this morning, and I showed it this afternoon. And both buyers were interested in making a purchase agreement on your home. Let's begin. And Judy, let's take your agreement.
Okay. Basically, again, I do have a pre-approved buyer. They've been totally pre-approved. This is not pre-qualified, but totally pre-approved. Their house is sold and closed. They have no backups to anything. They are ready, able, and willing to buy. Okay. And because of the multiple offer situation, they are approved, and they have offered you $390,000 for your property today, so they are coming in over full price. Not a lot over full price, but significant, I think, to let you know that they really did want it. They have $78,000 down, and they are putting on a conventional mortgage. The other thing that I think you're going to find interesting about my offer is we did not know your needs, so I tried to match the buyer to your needs as well as I could. And the interesting thing about this one is I've put in a closing date here to be arranged to fit the needs of the buyer and seller to determine the date of closing within September 15th to October 30th. So anytime during that, I would like to have you pick the date and decide that within 24 hours so that I can get back to the buyer. So the only thing that I think you need to consider on this offer is the quality of the buyer, the possession date, and whether or not the earnest money is enough to make you feel comfortable that this offer is going to be closed. Anything else, David? Do you have any questions about this offer?
I think that's fine. We can get into some details
Okay.
later.
Okay.
Okay, in this agreement, very similar. We have the letter from the buyer, the pre-approval letter. And on this agreement, the buyers have, for earnest money, put in $12,000 as earnest money. And their offer also is over full price. And they have offered $391,500.
All right.
So isn't that nice? You have
Yeah,
two offers
beautiful.
over full price.
Happy days.
Yeah, and this doesn't happen a lot. And their closing date is November 15th. And they're in a position of having another home to sell, and they're in a real tight bind on that, and they are not able to close until November 15th.
Kind of far down the road,
think,
perhaps,
yeah.
isn't it?
Like the money, David. I like I like the offer a lot. The date's a problem for us,
Okay.
Can we discuss this just a little bit here?
Absolutely.
Is that okay? Just to
for sure.
take a few moments looking at both of the offers that we have here, looking at dates and some of the other things. If we had to make a decision right this very moment, I'm very uncomfortable with the date and the fact that it's basically contingent on the sale of their house. So even though your offer is lower, but it's not significant in the big picture, I would have to say we'd have to go with your offer.
I think that's a good decision, quite honestly.
So as you saw in that scene, in the multiple offers, obviously in a multiple offer situation, they're both very good. In fact, in this case, over full price. Not a lot over, and that depends on your market. But they're both over full price. And the decision, as you saw, wasn't necessarily price, it was date. And when you do a November 15th closing date, which in this case is a month or two beyond the other one, owners say, who cares about money? I'd rather have lesser money now. So when you're writing multiple offers, yes, price is important, but more importantly, closing and possession dates. And that's why it's important to find those tidbits out before you write a multiple offer. If you're in the showing, ask the owner if they're there. If not, ask the listing agent what the owner's plans are. Okay, now we're going to take a look at another single offer presentation, only this one's going to be from Juan and Carmen, the buyers we worked with, and I'm going to present it to another agent. And in this case, we're going to do the offer presentation in her office, which, by the way, is a place you can do an offer presentation, invite the sellers in. So I'm going to see Judy. Oh, by the way, Judy is the selling agent on the first offer, and now in this case, I will sell her listing. So let's take a look at an offer presentation on a co-op listing.
David, thank you so much for bringing an offer. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you again. Well,
it's about a month ago we were doing this, wasn't it?
Yep, turnabout is fair play now. It's time for me to
Absolutely.
sell one of yours.
That'd be wonderful.
Sounds good.
Yeah, well, you have a lovely home, and the buyers today are named Juan and Carmen Jaquez, and they liked your home a lot. And they demonstrated that through their purchase agreement. So how would you like me to proceed?
You can just go ahead and present your offer. You certainly know it better than I do.
All right.
So,
First of all, as I'm sure she's told you, you want to make sure that the buyers are financially qualified. And I had Juan and Carmen go to a lender, and they got a pre-qualification letter, pre-approval, so they have a mortgage, so they're ready to perform on the contract.
are those buyers have a house to sell, David?
Yes, they have a house to sell, and when I met them, I both helped them buy and sell at the same time. We put their home on the market, and that has sold. It has not closed, but it is sold.
Oh.
So what we're trying to do now is get closing dates timed to occur at the same time.
Are their buyers pre-approved also?
Yes, they are.
All right, great. I would, if this offer goes, I'd like complete copies of the backup offer, please.
Okay?
Okay.
Sure. So here's the pre-approval letter for them,
Okay.
and here is the purchase agreement. And would you like me to just kind of give you the overview of it
Yeah,
and go through the
please.
details? Okay. They have submitted earnest money of $1,000,
Okay.
and they're going insured conventional, and their offer is $148,900, and they have a closing date which is 45 days out. The personal property they've asked for is consistent with what you offered on the listing agreement, as you can see.
Okay.
If you can live with the 148.9, and if you can live with the closing date, it looks to me like this is a very clean offer. You know, the pre-approval is very, very important. And in most cases, you know, we don't know the details on the house that you're buying. So what we would need to do is accept this closing date, and then you need to be flexible enough to maybe make alternative living.
Okay.
If possible.
On the end, what
Or we
would
could
be
we
buying.
can
Okay.
counter this, but what that means in this buyer is that they'd have to go back and counter their offer.
Well, and would that be realistic in only? I mean, that's
mean,
only 1,000 less than they're asking.
Unless we're thinking we can get more on another offer, but we've been sitting around.
what is your
Well,
advice?
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, let's take a look at this. We've had
Okay,
13
let's
showings.
take a look at it.
This is the first offer that we have looked at. It's only $1,000.
yeah.
In fact, if you were going to put out a new mortgage, that would only mean $7 a month to you in payments. That's all it means.
Well, broken down, that that
Yeah,
doesn't seem
yeah.
like much.
Yeah, with today's interest rate, that would fluctuate, of course, if the rates change. But
I
you know,
like it.
so, you know,
Can we just can we have just a moment to talk about it?
Certainly,
You
certainly.
know, if we have any other questions.
Okay, that would be fine. David, would you mind stepping out for just a moment? I think we'll be able to resolve this very closely.
Okay.
All right, thanks. So we're on the market at 149.9. This is 148.9. We're $1,000 apart.
I don't have no problem with that.
I mean,
Okay.
why quibble
Yeah,
with $1,000?
Anytime you touch an offer,
Okay.
the buyer has the right to walk away. They get a time to second think about it.
so- okay.
You know.
So you can see, if you present a good offer, it's very easy, it goes very smoothly. There's very little negotiating, little chat about it, and that's really all there is to it. In the next scene, you're going to see something I hope you don't have to ever see in real life. And it's up to you whether you see this, and that is the very low offer. And of course, very low is subjective depending on a market, but I hope you don't have to do this. But I wanted to put Juan and Carmen's low offer, and I want to show you when you pitch that kind of an offer and you have to present it, this is what that looks like. Okay, so that's the information on the buyer, and they are pre-approved.
All right.
Now, before I present the agreement to you, first of all, I am representing the buyer on this, and these people have not purchased a home in about 15 years. So this is their first entry to the market. They're not used to the prices. They're not used to even some of the negotiating, and they have submitted this agreement in that context. And I would
Okay.
summarize that to you. Would you like me to go ahead and summarize this?
I would like you to present it, David.
Okay. The earnest money that they're offering is the $1,000. The personal property, they did in this case ask for the things that you mentioned, plus they did ask for a washer and dryer. They're coming out of a home where they don't have that.
That's going to be a problem.
Okay, well, hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
The offer that they are submitting is $139,900, and
139.9.
have a closing date about 45 days out.
Ooh, that is really low. There's no way we could do that.
That's
And-
no. I don't think
45 days is going to be really.
that's going to be but
too soon.
Okay, the washer and dryer aren't even ours.
No, they.
They're her brothers. And
yeah, I mean, they've-
you keep saying, oh, use them, but I don't.
And I think he wants them back.
I know he does. He's just
Yeah,
never gonna.
I mean,
he hasn't never picked them up.
It's not for us to say
anyway,
that.
No,
But I mean, $10,000.
That's $10,000
That is.
low.
There's no way.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, it is a low offer. You're right.
Okay.
I mean, what do we do?
There's-
There's no way
ways
we can
about
do
it.
that.
Well,
This is
we talked
silly.
before about if we get a buyer in writing, on paper, they're expressing an interest in the property.
Okay.
They're
okay. And then there are newbies in on this, but
just so you know, this is as difficult for me, well, maybe not as difficult for me,
Yeah.
but just so you know, as a real estate agent, we don't like coming in with offers like this. I certainly don't
Then-
defend that necessarily, nor do I even indicate that that's my opinion of value, so to speak.
okay.
What I can say is these people certainly are financially qualified, and so they're in a position where they can perform in that. But in 15 years, they can't believe the prices, and there are some people who just feel they want to try a
Yeah,
little
but
while.
that's not our. That's not our problem that they don't
no,
understand.
I don't
Well,
think-
what should we do?
Certainly, we don't want to reject it. We don't
Okay,
want to
all
just
right.
flat out reject it. We would
Okay.
like to
But what
work
are
with
our
the people.
chances
Hold on,
of
hold on.
coming back with a counter offer?
Okay.
I mean, if they're coming in that low.
Right. Let's talk about the things. First of all, we've got a $10,000 low offer.
Right.
Second of all, they want the washer and dryer, which
Which-
you don't want to leave. Possession, you think may be a problem. How are you with the earnest money? You okay with the earnest money?
Well, I'd like to see
It's-
more.
yeah, it's
I know.
1,000 is. I mean,
It's pretty acceptable in
like-
this price
especially when
range.
it's
Is it?
$10,000 low.
Well,
I mean,
that's
they put
the
more earnest
first thing
money,
we need
yeah.
to deal with.
Okay.
Absolutely. What can you live with? And David, what do you think your people can live with? Let's see if we can at
yeah.
least get something where we can go back and
Okay.
try to save the offer.
Okay.
Remember, you certainly have a house that you'd like to buy if possible.
Absolutely.
So
Right.
let's
You're
work
right,
with
you're
what we
right,
have.
But we've
you're
got to
right,
get
you're
more
right,
out of
you're right,
ours
yeah.
than that.
I understand. I understand.
Okay, let's
If
see
I
what we
may,
need.
obviously in any negotiation, we're looking for a win-win. This probably doesn't fit that.
Not quite.
Just from my personal experience in the psychology of negotiations, when I go back with a buyer and say, well, they didn't like the earnest money, they didn't like the washer and dryer, they didn't like the date, they didn't like the price, sometimes they look at me and go, well, did they like our name?
Right.
You know?
What is there to
And it's a
salvage?
lot of
Just throwing
changes.
it out.
And there's a psychology of negotiation, which tends to work. If I can go back and say, well, guess what? They gave you this, they gave you that, they gave you this, they gave you that. But there's one thing that they need from you. There's a sense of winning, where we can keep the two parties together. So in a situation like this, my first question to you and to all of you is, if there was any one change that you could make that you could live with the other three, is there something that would fit that? And I guess I would ask, what's the most important?
The most
The
important
money.
thing.
Well, the money's
The
the,
money.
most
The
Bottom
money
line.
is the
important.
most
The bottom line. Okay.
Then my next question would be, is there an amount that, if you got that much for
More?
the house,
More?
that you would
Yeah.
let them have
Yep.
the closing date, the earnest money?
Well, see, I think we can be flexible on the closing date. I mean, we can always work something out.
Well, it depends on the house we're looking at. too.
Yeah, but I think we can work on that.
We could probably be a little flexible on the date.
Okay. The 45 days you could live with.
I think we could do that. I mean,
Okay.
because it's going to take a little
We
time
could-
to get all this done
Right.
anyway.
We could
but,
work that
yeah.
out. Washer and dryer.
What do you think they'd
You
take
know,
for it if you had to buy
I
it?
should, I
Just
should
call
just
him.
ask Tom.
Call him. Yeah.
There's an outside chance if I talk to him,
It's
maybe
his gift to us.
if we offer him
Maybe it's a
a
housewarming gift.
couple of $100 or something, maybe.
No,
he'll-
okay. So let's go back. It's basically the money. Can they do more on the earnest? On the $1,000, make it like
Is that
5, you know?
realistic?
Can they do
That's
more?
2 out of 4.
I understand. And can they do more?
It's worth an ask.
Yes, they probably can.
Okay.
So it's an issue of how important is that? And the earnest money primarily is to serve as a security for you.
Right.
And,
Portion of the down payment.
right?
Okay, okay.
But the real security comes from whether or not they're pre-approved for the mortgage.
Right.
Which
so
you said
can
they
they?
are.
I
Okay.
know that they're in a position where most of their equity is in their home and a little bit in their savings, so it's it's tight for them. So could they? They might be able to do that.
It's
up
a
to
small
them.
point, but it's
Yeah,
like
well,
we
you've
said.
been burned before, so it
Right.
scared you, but $1,000 is pretty acceptable in this price range
Oh,
in
oh,
most
okay.
transactions.
Okay.
That doesn't concern me as much as the price, obviously.
okay.
The question to you, and is what can you live with? If we come back at full price, quite often, psychologically, it'll burn the buyers.
Well, would something like 2 or
Two,
3,000?
three.
You know, we just don't want to go. Would 2,000 less than our asking price be?
Yeah.
Can you-
Or is
can
that
you-
going to scare them?
I think it would be, if you're asking me for professional opinion,
Yes.
I think that's an acceptable counter.
That
That
would be
is.
realistic.
Because you're
We've
giving them
given
a
them-
rapid
right.
closing, which was very important to them. You're giving up your wash and dry, which we never intended to. They were asking for a lot.
Okay. That's let's go with that. I think.
All right.
Don't
Let's
you
try
think,
that.
Data?
I
You
think so.
Okay, that's good.
Do you think that's going to work for the buyers?
Do you think that's good as a counter?
I always hate to answer that
You don't-
question
yeah,
because
okay.
I never know what they're going to do. None of us know what anyone's going to do. I will say this, my own opinion to you is I think you're being very fair.
Well, thank you.
The other thing that we're going to do to conclude this is I'm going to put a time limit on this counter. I only want this counter out for 24 hours.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Because we could counter it and he could take a sweet time. We get another offer, you see. And so
yeah.
we always
Okay.
need a time frame on these counters.
Okay.
Can you reach your buyers within 24 hours?
I told them to stay where they are.
All right, great,
And,
great.
I actually will be driving from here to there. So
right.
this will be, I'll have an answer for you probably within 2 hours.
we need to just initial the changes of 147.9.
Okay.
Okay.
And we need to add a line in here that states we have a 24-hour time frame on this
Okay.
contingency. And good luck with this, David.
If nothing else from that scene, hopefully you'll learn don't ever write a low offer. Because that's the pain. There's nothing harder, there's nothing more embarrassing, there's no more deeper professional insult than showing up with a low offer, in my opinion. I hate that. And if you do, that's the kind of stuff that you're going to face, and people laugh at you, and you can't stand it. But if it has to happen, in fact, even on a reasonably low offer, the major technique is, rather than going back with 4 changes, isn't it nice to go back with 1? And the key, one technique is to find out what the most important is, and if they give them this, give them that, give them this, I can sit down with the buyers and say, you won, but there is one thing we need to change. So that's a technique for doing that. Now we get to see returning to the buyers with the counter offer. In the counter offer, the sellers took our 4 changes and we reduced it to 1 change. So now you get to see the importance of reducing it to 1 change. I'll go back to the sellers, or back to the buyers, and I'll say, here's what they did. And they're initially thinking that nothing worked, and I'll at least be able to present 2 or 3 good things and then hit them with the, oh, by the way, there's a couple things we're going to have to change. So let's see how we would present a counter offer back to the buyer.
Okay, what happened? Tell us. We're ready.
All right, what happened?
What happened? You want to know.
Yeah,
Come on.
You guys are going to owe me big time, okay?
let's hear it.
This was a lot of work. And let me take you through it one step at a time. Now, when you came in 10,000 low,
Yeah.
I told you that's going to be a challenge. But there was some other issues in there. The earnest money at $1,000. These people have apparently had some bad experiences with homes not going through, and they wanted $5,000 earnest money, something they asked for. And I said, you know, a lot of the equity's in their home, and we talked about some of your cash situation, and I said, you know, and I showed them your pre-approval letter, and I said, you know, these are good, solid people, and they said, okay, to the 1,000. So that was a change that I averted. Closing dates, you guys have been in a hurry. You wanted to do a 45-day closing. They are in a huge bind. In fact, even in 60 days, they weren't sure, and I said, there's just no way, and I knew after 45 it was going to be hard for you. We were on the phone, they talked to their parents, they worked a couple things out, and they actually stuck with the 45.
All right.
So they're going to be,
That's good news.
well, they're going to be, I don't know how they're going to do that. The washer and dryer that you wanted, I told you that was going to be extra. They don't even own those. It's a long story. I won't drag you through it. And they said, all right, they can have the washer and dryer.
Great, that's good news.
That's the good news. But we need to talk about the price. I told you going in that they had every right to counter right back to full price. 10 low was just not going to happen. Okay, and they wanted full price, and I talked to them. We went back and forth, and they did something that, frankly, I'm kind of surprised. But they came back and they still gave you $2,000 off the asking price. They came back at $147,900.
Wow.
Well, it's worth the asking.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
So I say to you folks, congratulations. You made me work for that one. And what we're going to need to do is initial the changes. So we're going to make some initials on this.
Okay.
And we have crossed out the original price, so we're going to need your initials on that and put this whole package together and get you settled.
Oh, wow.
That's fabulous.
Great.
Right, so
Thank you so much.
you right there. So you see the beauty of that? If you take all these changes and merge it to one, I was able to start off with them and say, this, you won here, you won here, you won here. Oh, by the way, there is one little change. And at that point, it's a lot easier to carry the momentum through. And the counter was a small counter, really, and we got it through. Now, hopefully you won't be dealing with too many low offers. So in the final scene, this is what you hope will happen on every single offer you write, where you get to come back to the buyer and congratulate them on their new home.
What happened?
What happened? Good news.
Yeah.
All right, let's have
Good
it.
news. Congratulations. You folks are homeowners. We got we got one little tiny change,
Yeah.
but I say to you, congratulations. Juan,
Thank you very
you got
much.
yourself a house. We had to change. We had to move a date. They had a conflict with the date. We had to move it a week, and I was assuming that was okay with you.
Okay.
So we've got one little change on the closing date. They were going to move it back a week, and it sounded to me like you were flexible on that. But everything else was agreeable, and you guys are homeowners.
Great.
So now, guess what you owe me?
What, a meal?
Yeah, I want some Mexican. I want you to cook. I want you to cook Mexican food for me.
You got him.
Alrighty, good. Let's go through. Just need your initials here, and Carmen, we need that right there. All right.
Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks.
Well, at this point, you have seen everything I know about the real estate business condensed into 12 videos. We've talked about prospecting, working with buyers, working with sellers, and in this last video, we brought them all together to various conclusions. And the hope for you is that you have these conclusions over and over and over again in the real estate business. And when you do that, it becomes a joy. And then we move into the final stage, and that is, how do you get customers for life? And in taking a look at some of the customer service, we find how in the world do we lose customers? And what we find is that 3% of our customers just move away. That's a normal attrition. 5% of them will develop friendships with other people, and again, that's normal attrition. 9% of our customers leave for some competitive reason. 14% are dissatisfied with the product, but customer research has shown 68% of customers leave you and me because of an attitude of indifference. We just didn't care. We never called them back. I was doing videos, man-on-the-street interviews for a real estate network I was working with, and I was interviewing people who had bought from the real estate agents. I said, how did you like your realtor? And the answer was, oh, she was great, he was wonderful, we really liked him. And I said, would you refer people to that realtor? Oh, gladly. But I can't remember his name, I forgot their name. That's sad. So your mission is, when you've done this good job, stay in touch with these people. And that goes all the way back to our earlier tapes on how to build referrals. So, treat problems as opportunities. Whenever something goes wrong in this business, and if you're in a service business, I will promise you there'll be problems. Inspections, appraisals, delayed closings. One seller has a problem and they want to talk to your buyer and have them extend a closing date. And everything in this business can get messed up one way or another. Snowstorm delays a contract, so you can't close in time. So what should you do with that? Well, dissatisfied customers, you may not know this, but 4% of them will complain. That's all. I was once at a hotel, and I complained. I'm one of those 4% who do. And they said, how was your stay? And I said, you know what? I didn't get a hot shower. I got cold water this morning. Of course, the guy behind the counter hadn't been to the seminar. He said, well, we haven't had any other complaints. Oh, thanks. That's what I wanted to hear. So I turned to the gentleman next to me who was signing out, and I said, sir, did you get a hot shower this morning? And he said, uh-uh. He's in the 96% that quietly go away. 96% of us just go, how was your dinner? It was fine, and then we never go to the restaurant again. So your mission is to make sure that you stay in touch with your buyers and sellers. How am I doing? How am I doing? What can I do differently? And get back to them. Now, when things do go wrong, there's some good news. If you do have a problem, 70% of the people who do business with you will do business with you again if the problem is resolved. 95% of them will do business with you again if you resolve it immediately. And then you can become a master of this business. Go beyond the limits. Try to do things a little bit better each time. And I'll leave you with 2 words, model and feedback. Models means you find people who can serve as your role models, your managers, your trainers, other people in your company who have been there before you. Take them to lunch. Watch them on listing presentations. Watch them on selling presentations and find out what they do. You've watched some of these videos, but now watch it for real in your market so you can see, yes, that's how it really happens. And the second part is get feedback. If you want to find out if these skills are really working for you, practice them in your offices, practice them in your training centers, role play with each other. I know you hate role plays, but if you don't role play with each other, guess who you're going to practice on? Real people. Practice on each other first and then have somebody else observe, videotape, and get feedback as to whether or not your skills match the level of what you would like to be. And if you do all of those things, I promise you, you will have mastered the game of real estate. And then you can become a mentor for other people. Thank you for joining us on the Mentor Series.
We split the
difference on that, or half, or something like that?
Split the difference.
I mean,
Do you know how incredibly trite that is? Everybody watched it. Split the difference. I am looking. Do something, at least do something original. Split the difference. Don't fight,